tabmok99's Lore Minute.
From the very beginning, Sub-Zero was a fan favorite, partially because of his rivalry with Scorpion. Little did Sub-Zero know when he entered the Mortal Kombat tournament that this fight would be his last. Yeah, Sub-Zero was killed at the hands of Scorpion in the first tournament. But when Mortal Kombat 2 came out, they couldn't just leave Sub-Zero out of the game. I mean, that would leave a lot of players cold. So what did they do? When they brought Sub-Zero back, they said that this was the younger brother of the original Sub-Zero. So they found the right balance between letting fans have their favorite character and moving the story forward. And that is why we have two Sub-Zeros. Shoutouts to VenomCarnage777 for using both the Sub-Zero brothers last week when he got 22 wins in a row. Now, if you want one of these cool Sub-Zero masks, then check out Blast Bolt at the address below.
tabmok99's Lore Minute.
Geras is the first creation of Kronika. He's not exactly a god, but he is immortal. I mean, he can't be killed. His power is that he controls the sands of time. So whatever happens to him, he just rewinds time and puts himself back together. So there really is no stopping him. Now, unlike some of the other gods and the other immortals that we've seen in Mortal Kombat, Geras is different in that he doesn't have a soul. He doesn't have free will. He basically has to do whatever Kronika tells him to do. Kind of like how in real life, he basically has to do whatever the player holding the controller tells him to do. Speaking of, shoutouts to Jalready for getting 11 wins in a row last week using mostly Geras until he was interrupted by our very own Fatalcade. Nice upset, dude.
tabmok99's Lore Minute.
Alright, so here is some deep lore from Noob Saibot. Okay, Noob Saibot is a member of the Brothers of the Shadow. That's what it was originally called when it was introduced. It was introduced that Noob Saibot was a member of the Brothers of the Shadow. But in online discussions, forums like on MK Online, for example, fans got it messed up. They called it the Brotherhood of the Shadow, even though that's never the word that was used in game to describe it. But at some point, the MK team decided they liked it so much that that's what made it into the games. They started saying, okay, it's the Brotherhood of the Shadow now. So that is some deep stuff for Noob Saibot's clan. Speaking of Noob Saibot, shout out to VenomCarnage777 for getting 9 wins in a row last week using Noob Saibot.
tabmok99's Lore Minute.
Alright, so Noob Saibot made his debut in Mortal Kombat 2. Now here's the funny thing, not a lot of people know this until just recently. Ed Boon was kind of not supposed to sneak in any more characters without approving them with John Tobias first. So, you know, John Tobias knew about Jade, he knew about Smoke, he designed their palettes, they worked together, they cooperated, okay. And then Ed Boon went and snuck behind his back and made Noob Saibot without even telling him. In fact, he might not have even known until well into MK3's pre-production. So Noob Saibot is obviously, you know, Boon and Tobias, and their names backwards, and it's like an homage to both of the creators. But it was also kind of like a little sneaky thing, like, you're not going to tell me which characters I can and can't put in the game.
Yeah, that sounds like an Ed move.
So that is some recently uncovered lore, behind-the-scenes lore about Noob Saibot. Speaking of Noob Saibot, shout-outs to VenomCarnage777 for getting 9 wins in a row last week using everyone's favorite noob.
tabmok99's Lore Minute.
Sheeva is the perfect embodiment of Internet Rule 63, which states that for every given male character, there is eventually going to be a female version. Well, they introduced the Shokhan race with Goro, and then later they introduced Sheeva, basically the female version of him. So Sheeva was handpicked by Shao Kahn to be the bodyguard of Queen Sindel. Now, interestingly, when Queen Sindel died, there were no repercussions. Sheeva didn't suffer any kind of punishment, nor did the Shokhan at all. No, the Shokhan didn't suffer until after Goro and Kintaro lost 2 successive Mortal Kombat tournaments. That's when Shao Kahn decided to replace them with the Centaurians. Not the death of his wife. No, that didn't do anything to him. So, anyway, Sheeva was handpicked not just by Shao Kahn, but also by Big Nick 62385, who won last week's trivia question here on Fatal Friday. Shoutouts to you, dude.
tabmok99's Lore Minute.
Due to some technical difficulties with the MK11 servers, last week we had our first ever tie. So I guess we'll be doing not 1, but 2 lore minutes. So let's start with Noob Saibot. We've done Noob Saibot a lot on this show. Well, Noob Saibot was the original Sub-Zero. He was a member of the Lin Kuei. When he died, he went to the Netherrealm and he became a member of the Brothers of the Shadow, worshipping Quan Chi and Shinnok. It was a fate that he tried to escape, but looks like it just caught up with him. There is no escaping your destiny. Then we've also got Kung Lao. Kung Lao is a member of the Order of Light. He trained under the Wu Shi Academy under Bo Raicho and alongside Liu Kang. He's still a member, even when he died and became a Revenant. Unlike Sub-Zero, who became Noob Saibot, Kung Lao still retained his identity. He's still Kung Lao. Yeah, he might be angry with Raiden and blame him for his death, but he's different than Noob Saibot. He didn't reshape himself. He didn't become a new person after he died and went to hell. So I was asked to come up with a kind of a connection between Kung Lao and Sub-Zero, and that's kind of what I came up with. They both became servants of Quan Chi. Anyway, shoutouts to both Jaseri and Venom Carnage 777 for getting 7 wins in a row last week here on Fatal Friday.
tabmok99's Lore Minute.
This time around, we've got a lot of different characters we can choose from. Well, let's zoom in on the 2 guest characters who were used last week, Joker and Robocop, and the giant corporations that these characters owe their existence to. Yeah, that's right. Let's start with the Joker. He owes his existence to Ace Chemicals. If it wasn't for them and their dangerous, chemicals, then Joker never would have fallen into a vat of acid, and he never would have become the supervillain that he is today. And as for Robocop, well, if it wasn't for Omni Consumer Products, they never would have contracted with the city of Detroit to run their private police department. In fact, he never would have become Robocop, but he'd probably still be alive today, because I think the Omni Corporation, they kind of killed him. Yeah. Well, at any rate, shoutouts to Venom Carnage 777 for getting 11 wins in a row last week using not only the Joker and Robocop, but also Noob Saibot and Geras. Shoutouts, dude.
tabmok99's Lore Minute.
When Rain was first introduced, he was a member of the Edenian resistance against Shao Kahn's tyranny. It was said that his father was a general in Edenia's army. Only later games would reveal that Raiden's father was actually Argus, the protector god of Edenia. That makes Rain a half-god, or demigod, if you will. Not demigod like when they started calling Raiden a demigod. No, Rain's an actual demigod. His father's a god and his mother's immortal, so there you go. Also, Rain is a traitor. He was never really resisting against Shao Kahn's tyranny. He actually joined him and worked against the Edenian resistance. Hey, speaking of despicable traitors, shout out to Mexican Gladiator for getting 7 wins in a row last week using Rain.
tabmok99's Lore Minute.
Out of all the Mortal Kombat characters, it's Sub-Zero who's the most relatable. I mean, despite being a ninja who can shoot ice magic out of his hands, right? He's going through the same problems that the rest of us are dealing with. He's also the most inspirational character. I mean, he shows us how these problems can be overcome. What do I mean by that? Well, for starters, he knows what it's like to have to wear a mask day in, day out, and then finally get the freedom to take that thing off. Hey, in addition, he knows what it's like to give your soul to an organization that would just as soon replace you with a machine the second they could. I mean, automation is a big problem. Researchers say that we're going through the 4th Industrial Revolution right now. But Sub-Zero knows what that's all about. I mean, he made it through the Cyber Initiative, and he showed us how to take charge of that situation, now didn't he? So, speaking of taking charge, shoutouts to Connor Nelson for getting 8 wins in a row last week using Sub-Zero.
tabmok99's Lore Minute.
Noob Saibot has been with us right from the beginning. You might even say he was an undiscovered warrior from Mortal Kombat 1. Yeah, when we were first introduced to Noob, he was actually the original Sub-Zero, Bi-Han, and he was on a mission for Quan Chi. Now, later on, when he died, he went on to become a Wraith of the Netherrealm, where he was compelled to serve Quan Chi. Yeah, I guess there really was no escaping his destiny. God knows he tried. Or should I say, Raiden knows he tried. Anyway, this time around, Noob Saibot has bigger designs. If he gets his way, he's intent on becoming destroyer of all reality. Well, we'll see how things shake out. Anyway, shoutouts to Venom Carnage 777 for getting 11 wins in a row last week, using Noob Saibot, Robocop, Shang Tsung, and some others. Good job, dude.